Welcome to episode 23 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. My name is William Fitzpatrick, and here's my co-host, Sal Cusmano.
Hello, guys.
And I am going to make the statement for Sal and everyone else involved and what we are going to be doing moving forward. This is a professional wrestling podcast. We talk exclusively about professional wrestling. This podcast is 100% independent. We are not going to be talking about anything else regarding anything that is going on outside of the world of professional wrestling. I want to make that abundantly, absolutely clear in this mindset because we need to move forward. That is the title of this podcast. Look at that title, stare at it for about a minute to a minute and a half, because that is all I'm going to say on anything. This is a professional wrestling podcast. This is 100% independent, and we are moving forward. Sal will talk about the G1, we will talk about Raw, we will talk about Smackdown, and we will talk about Enzo Amore stuck in a shark cage. That's about it. So Sal, let's talk about the G1.
G1. Not a lot of catch up on the G1. In fact, there was only one day, and that was day 16, which aired on Tuesday. So, a couple days right after we had this show the past Sunday, and now we're having a show today on Thursday. Because, as a subtitle to the We Need to Move Forward edition, we might as well call this the Sal Can't Work Out His Damn Schedule edition.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, my schedule's been rough. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and working, and Fizzy especially for working around my crazy-ass schedule. Work has not been kind to me in that regard. Although I do need the money.
A minor note on that, we will have our regular schedule this next week.
Yep. We go back to regular schedule next week, and we'll see from there. I know things will start getting more regular the week of September 3rd. I can guarantee that. The 2 weeks after next week, can't guarantee, but hopefully they'll be good. Anyway, again, just want to thank Fizzy, my co-host, for being so easygoing and being able to work around me. And I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and working around with my schedule too, because, it makes it easier when you can always expect it on a certain day. So for everyone tuning in, I appreciate it. But let's get to the G1. We had 5 matches for the tournament, as usual. We had Tama Tonga against Satoshi Kojima, Juice Robinson against Toru Yano, Michael Elgin against Evil, Kenny Omega against Sonata, and Kazuchika Okada against Minoru Suzuki. We actually had a draw today, but that will come later. Let's start out with Tama Tonga against Satoshi Kojima. Well, let's start with this. Something I've noticed over the past few matches. Tama Tonga has developed kleptomania. Fizzy, you know what kleptomania is, right?
It's basically the concept of people stealing things.
Yep, people are urged to take others' possessions. Let's run down what Tama Tonga has stolen from others during this G1. He has taken Okada's robe thing and worn it himself. He has taken Minoru Suzuki's flag and draped it over himself and then attacked Minoru. He has taken Yano's robe thing and worn it himself. And now he has finally taken Satoshi Kojima's robe thing, or trench coat thing, and worn it himself. And then attack Kojima. This man, New Japan, can we get him a robe of his own? He just get the man a robe.
Or go call Jenny over in the United Kingdom, and she could make a very fashionable robe for Tama Tonga.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, the man clearly wants one, considering he's stealing all of them. And I will actually say, Tama Tonga actually pulls off the Kojima robe trench coat thing really well. So I honestly want to see Roman in one now, because as we've said before, Tama Tonga is Roman and Seth's illegitimate love child who came from the future somehow. Because he's older than both Roman and Seth. We have no idea how this works, but this is now canon. I deem it so.
I think cloning was involved, although I think, Tonga and a toga would probably work out just as well.
Jesus. But yes, and Tama Tonga defeated Satoshi Kojima. I actually really liked this match, which surprised me because Tama was in it, but then I remembered Kojima was in it and I wasn't as surprised anymore. So there you go. Up next, we had Juice Robinson against Toru Yano. And this match was funny. Juice got the win, but it's it was weird because, as you know, Yano in these matches usually plays the face. He's this goofball comedy, guy. He goes after people. He's kind of like, like a more comedic Eddie Guerrero.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Eddie Guerrero. And this one, he was the heel. And it's weird because going into it, I was excited, but then I thought, can Yano as the heel really work? Because for those who don't know, I've mentioned this before, but this is really my first main exposure with New Japan. I signed up for the World once, like 2 weeks ago, just so I could catch the finals of the G1. Didn't really even watch that live, and after that, I let it lapse. I unsubscribed because I just didn't feel it. So this is my first real experience, and I had never really seen much of Yano before. So I was worried because Juice, as I've said many times before, is one of the best baby faces New Japan has. Just pure baby face. And he is so good. Mm-hmm. So, I was worried. But then seeing it, no, it all worked because Yano was coming across as this dick trying to, steal a win from the Honorable Juice. Mm-hmm. So it worked. I was worried about that. But this match was hilarious.
Toru Yano is the bandit boss that you see in the very first half of an anime, the very first opponent that anybody faces against. He showcased that bandit king boss thing again in this particular match against Juice Robinson.
Yes. Let me put it like this. You like comedy, I think you'd really like this match. One of the first things they did was fight a little bit. Then they both ran out of the ring and started fighting under it. You couldn't really see anything except for where, like, the parts of the bottom of, like, the ring would start bumping up. So that's where you knew they were fighting. Mm-hmm. It was hilarious. They got out to a 19 count before both of them rushed back into the ring and just barely being able to beat it.
And they also destroyed the Great Neela and Great Kabuki and Great Muta's tea sets while under the ring.
Yes, it was sad. And they also damaged Taker's coffin and whatever Bray keeps under there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the stuff from the stuff that he bought on clearance at the Spirit Halloween store.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I got that stuff at like early November, right after Halloween. And it's like, oh, we're closing down. Bray's the guy who buys all that stuff that doesn't sell in Halloween stores. You just know it, but yes. And it was actually pretty hilarious. They get back in. Yano at one point used Juice's dreads to tie him to the guardrail. Mm-hmm. So we would get counted out. And Juice barely made it back in, but yeah, it was pretty good. Went back and forth a little bit, but Juice eventually hit the Pulp Friction, which I love that name. Mm-hmm. And he got the win, so I was really happy.
Coolness. So what was next?
Michael Elgin defeated Evil. Now this was a very, 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 very good match. It actually... I don't know how to rate the first two. I mean, the first one I'd probably give like 3.5. I actually really liked it for Kojima. Tama Tonga wasn't terrible in this. I mean, Kojima really carried him, though. Juice Robinson versus Toru Yano was just absolutely hilarious. I'd give that, I don't know. It's kind of weird because, like I don't know if I've mentioned this, but when I rate a match, I honestly mostly rate it on how much enjoyment it gave me. That's like 95% of how much I give a match. Mm-hmm. Like just pure, how much was I entertained by that match? Sometimes it'll, like something like an impressiveness or like how well it was structured out. That plays a little bit into it. The story as well, of course. But mostly it's just, my rating is like, if I was to recommend this to a friend based on how much I enjoy, this is how much I enjoyed it and this would dictate how much I would recommend it. Mm-hmm. So it's completely subjective. My ratings, I make no claims about them being objective or using any objective criteria whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But, and so Juice Yano, I don't know, like 3 3/4, liked it a little better than that. It would entertain me more. Mm-hmm. And then we have Michael Elgin against Evil, which I absolutely loved. The finishing, the match itself was really solid, but the finishing stretch was amazing. Mm-hmm. It was constant reversals of the big moves, like fighting out of it until Michael Elgin hit the power bomb. Evil barely kicked out. Mm-hmm. Michael beat him up a little bit, hit I think he hit an enziguri and then hit him again, and he got the pin. But, constantly fighting out. At one point, Elgin went for like a elbow strike, and Evil fought him off. Evil went for the Evil STO. Elgin fought him off. There was clotheslines. It was just awesome, and I recommend watching this match. I'd give that like 4 1/4, 4.5.
hmm Basically, at the match was structured that Elgin needed to avoid the evil STO, which had been a total match ender on several occasions.
Yeah, it's pretty much like the new from what I've seen at least. So don't I'm not going to speak for the whole thing, but from what I've seen, the evil STO is kind of like the sort of becoming like the new Rainmaker, where it's a very protected finish. Like no one kicks out of the Rainmaker. I
hmm
honestly wasn't the only time that happened like a Wrestle Kingdom a couple of years ago, and it was Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Tanahashi has kicked out of the Rainmaker a few separate times.
Yeah. I think that's it though. Hardly anyone ever kicks out. It's if it doesn't get the pin, it's because he doesn't go for the pin right away.
hmm
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this match. After this was Kenny Omega against Sonata. I skipped half this match. I mean, I tried to get into it, but I was not feeling it. I was jumping all around during the match, skipping a little bit here and there because I was just bored with it, and I don't know why. I just did not care for it.
Rule of cool guy versus other guy who's rule of cool, but also needs somebody to guide him so that he can do. Because the thing is, Sonata is all Japan style, is an all Japan style wrestler transitioning to New Japan style. Kenny Omega, as we've said, is a mad artist who dumps paint on a wall.
Yeah, and occasionally those mad paint jumps will be very, very entertaining and very good.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they won't be. I
Yes.
was not feeling this one, but I did again. I kind of like the finish,
Mm-hmm.
the transition into the one wing angel. That was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It was fine. I don't know, 2 3/4, 3, and I'm probably being harsh on it. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would like it way more than I did. I just did not care for it. And
Mm-hmm.
then we had Okada versus Suzuki.
Oh, this sounds fun.
This was fun. The only issue I had with it was that it went to a 30-minute time limit draw.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mainly because it's far from being the most over excessive thing New Japan has ever done. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, good lord, New Japan had like a 60-minute draw with Kenny and Okada at one point, and they both had a 45-minute match. So, New Japan does love that over excessive stuff.
The thing you got to
I
remember about this situation is that Okada is the IWGP Heavyweight Champion and Suzuki is the Never Heavyweight Champion. They're trying to protect the champions in this situation.
Yeah, I know. It's nothing. It's nothing major. I still like the match. I watched it all. It was really great. The ending in particular, once again, was awesome. Just seeing them all exhausted and sweaty, and every time they hit each other, like you could see like mist of sweat coming off their bodies. I'm like, holy crap, are these two exhausted?
Mm-hmm.
Which I liked because it made it seem like these two went to war with each other. These two have thrown absolute bombs at each other. These
Mm-hmm.
two have kicked each other's asses 5 ways from Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a very, very good match.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I just can't keep focused on things. And I'm a what's it called, hyperactive millennial, as the old folks would say. You can't focus on anything, you dumb young kid. Yeah, Grandpa. We know.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I thought it was a very, very good match. As I said, it went to a draw. Okada had Minoru Suzuki down after a Rainmaker, and Gato was yelling at him, "Go get the pin!" But Okada's like so exhausted, dazed, and out of it, he can't do it. Then he, like right before it ends, he tries to throw himself onto Minoru, but he's dazed, he's confused, he's out of it. So he actually misses Minoru by a foot or two. I mean, some people might say that's a little contrived, kind of like, really, you can't move your body, like the 1.5 feet where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
But and I mean, I can understand where that criticism comes from, but for me personally, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
If someone were to give it that criticism, I would be like, yeah, no, that's completely fair. I can get why that didn't work for you, but for me, it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this sounds like a very fun match. Like we said, they needed to protect the champions in this particular situation. They can always do a rematch down the line in one of the cards to say the Suzuki said, I took him to a time limit draw. I can beat him,
Yep. And that's where we are. The only real issue I had with this match is that it took Suzuki out of contention. Like he can no longer contend, which
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I've seen some people say it on Twitter. I think Boss Rock said it.
Mm-hmm.
And who I know someone else said it. I can't remember.
But regardless, what did they say?
Well, what they were saying is that they didn't like how there really isn't any surprise to the finals. Like
Mm,
the potential people who can win it is now down to Okada, Kenny, Tanahashi, and Naito. That is it.
okay, that's how New Japan structured their titles and structured
I
how the DG1. They plan this out a month in advance. You
Yeah, I
know.
know. I do find it weird though, in that for the best of the Super Juniors, I remember a lot of people mentioning this. That flowchart got crazy, and you could have had like 8 guys winning it on the final day based on a multitude of scenarios.
But that's the
And,
Super Juniors.
yes, I know. And then in this one, it's like, yeah, no, it's going to be one of these 4 guys, and that's it. It's just like I kind of wish we had a little more middle ground, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that.
And but that was the G1, and coming up on it's going to be tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be tomorrow. We have the last day of the G1, and I'm pretty sure that last day, the last day for A Block, excuse me, that will involve Naito against Tanahashi, and the winner of that match wins the A Block.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be one of those two, and then for Block B, we have, of course, Kenny against Okada, and the winner of that will face the winner of Naito Tanahashi. And then the winner of those two will face each other on Sunday, August 13th.
Mm-hmm. Going to be very interesting.
Yeah. I'm still thinking they go with Los versus Bullet Club, but you never know. Maybe they go Okada Tanahashi or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or hell, maybe they go Okada Naito or
Mm-hmm.
Tanahashi Kenny.
Mm-hmm. So that was the G1, folks, and now we move on to the world of WWE with Raw and SmackDown. And so, Sal, did you watch either Raw or SmackDown?
I actually watched both of them, yes.
I watched brief clips of some of the events. So what happened exactly on Raw? I know that there was more turmoil in the Dean Seth anime tsundere thing.
Yes. Although it really wasn't, I guess it kind of was tsundere in a little ways, but it wasn't as blatant as it was 2 Mondays ago. But well, first let's start with the opening. We had based Miz, that great man who I absolutely love, opening up the show. Based Miz, he wanted JJ because he was tired of people always attacking him on his show. And you know what? The man has a point, damn it. Why does everyone attack that good saint of a man on his show?
Hey, Sal, I think I'm hearing dinosaur noises. Oh, wait! Somebody in a blue shirt just showed up and murdered the entirety of the Mizraws except for the muscle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But we will get to that because more people keep beating him up. And Kurt Angle is doing nothing about it because he, like that evil man Daniel Bryan, is clearly biased against the Saint Miz. Honestly, what do you people have against the saint of a man? Is it because he volunteers at children's hospitals, you sick freaks? Seriously, though. But yes, Miz demanded Angle and his illegitimate son JJ come out so he could have a match with JJ. Miz wanted JJ to come out because he wanted an honest competition. He wanted to face JJ to get retribution. But Kurt Angle, abusing his authority, has always said, nah, you won't get him because he's going to have to face Curtis Axel. But before that, Angle gave Miz a new guest, Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar, the beast incarnate, who is a little annoyed at these Hollywood wannabes and decided to make an example out of them. Actually, Paul Heyman, after getting destroyed by Samoa Joe, wanted to make an example out of these individuals. The mighty wizard handed his wand, which is a cell phone, and commanded Brock, let's destroy that conspiracy theory nutcase and that guy that looks like he works as a security guard at one of the Pyramid Inns in Las Vegas.
Yeah. They wanted them destroyed. Although I will say, The Miz came out with some fire. Paul was about to speak, but Miz laid down the law of the land, telling him, when my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut.
The wizard did not take this kindly, however.
I will say, when I become a teacher, if I can get away with it, I am so using that line to get people in my class to be quiet if they're too loud and noisy.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'll probably have to deal with some parent whining and telling me, hey, don't you tell my child to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course they would tell me that. Because they're precious little angels who do nothing wrong. Look, I want to help your kids, people. But, you need to remember, everyone makes a mistake. No one's a perfect little angel. But, well, I'm not. But, when I'm not shooting my career out before it even freaking begins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Miz said, Miz went down and said, the company does want Brock to lose the title because, and Miz says if he was a betting man, he wouldn't pick Brock. He'd pick Samoa Joe. He'd pick Roman Reigns. He'd pick Braun Strowman. And he would say Brock's going to take his ball and go home. At which point, Paul Heyman, probably being one of like 5 people on the roster who could go toe-to-toe with Miz on the mic, he comes back and, says, he meekly introduces himself in his climate, like, hello, if I may speak, Mr. Miz, sir, like that sarcastic, meek attitude, which I thought worked pretty well. And, he says, I hope, are you and your wife into role playing? And he says, because we're going to do some role playing right now. You and the rest of the Miztourage are going to be Roman, Braun, and Joe. And Brock Lesnar is going to give a demonstration of what's going to happen at SummerSlam.
Ooh, goody, a public demonstration.
Yeah. And Brock, if I can speak, proceeded to summarily execute the Miztourage, which made me sad, although I was kind of reveling in the carnage because I'm a bad person. But yes, it was very, 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 very brutal. And I remember when Miz was going off on Paul, I'm like, Miz, I love you, but you're going to die. I literally said that on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened. He got murked. But yeah, all in all, it was a really good opening segment that I feel like furthered a few feuds. It established Brock as a scary, scary man who can beat people up and inflict pain.
Mm-hmm. Like what happened to Free MB a few years back.
Yes. And it established that Miz is, he's a very good shit talker. And, he wants JJ. So they're feuding the IC title feud.
Mm-hmm.
Which, oh, good Lord. I hope it all goes well for JJ. But my goodness, that promo from a couple of weeks ago, they need to get him a manager. Like, just have Kurt manage him. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Whatever happens, happens. I'm actually looking forward to the IC belt because I got low expectations about it at this point. Anyway,
well,
the segment
Miz has it. The Miz has it, so I have high expectations. Anything the Miz touch becomes awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yes, awesome. And also gold, which kind of becomes a bit of a problem.
Well, it was already gold anyway, so.
So, yeah. The segment I thought was extremely good. The idea of Paul saying, I'm going to role play, and I thought bread rolls were about to fall from the ceiling. And we had a situation where where Paul Heyman basically took out the flat earth atheist, the guy that is the driver of your limo, and of course Miz. Destroyed them all because he wanted to make examples of them because Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman needed a message sent.
Yep.
That message is Brock is going to kill you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And as the wizard bounced away happily with his monster in hand, we go to our next segment.
Seth Rollins against Sheamus. And it was fine. It was what it was. I was kind of curious as to why they ran Seth versus Sheamus again for the second week in a row and not like Seth versus Cesaro. Turns out they did Dean versus Cesaro, but I still don't get it. Why don't you just run Seth, Cesaro, Dean, Sheamus? Sorry, guys. I just got off work recently and my mind still isn't all here, so you might hear me stutter over my words a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that confused me. But again, Seth, for all my issues with his selling, if he's working where he doesn't need to sell a lot and just do more of like a slugfest, which is what Sheamus is good at, I tend to enjoy it more. And this was a perfectly fine TV match.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, only issue is that Sheamus got the win with a roll up this time.
Mm-hmm.
Because
They're
WWE,
doing the back and forth tag teams winning, opponents
yeah,
winning, and all that kind of stuff. Builds drama for SummerSlam.
yes, which I would say, no, this is WWE constantly doing 50-50 booking, which means no one gets over and nothing happens. It just means it's just one of those things where it's like, look, I get you don't want anyone to look too bad. That's admirable. But you got to make sure someone looks good. Like the real saving grace of this feud so far has been the story
Mm-hmm.
between Seth and Dean. Like
Mm-hmm.
the actual interactions between Seth and Sheamus and Cesaro and Dean and Sheamus and Cesaro, they've been pretty much meh, which is fine because the main point of this story is the relationship between Seth and Dean.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're lucky that's what they're focusing on. And I kind of wish, and I can understand if they want to half ass everything else, I just kind of wish they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But, that was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And after the match, Cesaro and Sheamus laid the beat down on Seth, and everyone was waiting for Dean to come out, but Dean didn't show this time.
Mm-hmm. Dean decided to be a total Suneri in this situation. I'm not going to
Yeah,
help you this time. Baka.
yeah, yeah, I guess you could. And, and then we went to commercial, and when we came back, it was Jason Jordan heading to the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And he was supposed to face Curtis Axel, but, well, Curtis Axel got murked by Brock.
Yes, he's currently in traction at this point, so Jason Jordan needed a new opponent.
Yep. And Kurt saw backstage generic jobber number 1, Jean-Pierre Goulet.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we were doing the show in Canada.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's talk about the Canada effect here, folks. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar or haven't been around wrestling for a very long time, the Canada effect is known as Bizarro World. Anyone who is a face gets a heel reaction. Anybody who is a heel gets a face reaction. If you are a jobber representing the great state of Canada, or French Canada in some cases, you will be cheered to the moon. This is what happened in this situation when the evil American foreigner faced against the Canadian.
Yes. And, it was a total squash match that Jordan won. And I'll just say this. As someone from Detroit, so I already have a huge bias against Toronto and they're fucking Leaf fans. Let it be said, Leaf fans are among the worst hockey fans in the NHL. They are petulant crybabies who will throw jerseys on the ice because their team sucks so much. This has happened. And then those same fans will say, I'm done with this team. Screw this team. Screw this team. They all came back last year. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a fair weather fan. All I'm going to say is if you get that pissed off to the point where you're throwing shit on the ice and then you come back, just recognize how much of like a tool you are to that team. Please recognize that.
I did not expect the hockey rant on today's edition of the show. I had no idea about that about Maple Leafs fans. I always have enjoyed the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they're right next door to Buffalo.
Oh, the Toronto Maple Leafs themselves, them sucking has been so enjoyable. It's perfect schadenfreude for a Wings fan because for those who know jack and shit about hockey, the Wings and the Leafs have one of the oldest hockey rivalries. I would say Detroit is probably Toronto's second biggest rivalry behind Montreal because obviously Quebec and Toronto, French Canada and English Canada, they hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then you have the border series, which is Detroit and Toronto. Mm-hmm. And then you have Windsor in the middle where like half the people there are Wings fans and half of them are Leafs fans. And I'm pretty sure wouldn't be out of the ordinary if you go there and expect a knife fight to break out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, it's one of those things. And I mean, I will say this, the crowd in Toronto, it was what you'd expect from a Toronto Leafs fan, from Toronto's Maple Leafs fans. Mm-hmm. Obnoxious, stupid, idiotic, trying to get themselves over. Mm-hmm. This was not a good crowd.
Oh my goodness. So while Sal barricades his house because he needs to prepare for himself from the onslaught of Toronto Maple Leafs fans that he just angered.
I deal with them enough already at Wings games, man. Mm-hmm. Good Lord. They infested the Joe. God rest its soul.
Did they help with the demolition at least?
No, we
I
wouldn't
mean, I know the Bruins did. I know the Bruins helped with the demolition, but
oh God, that's another story. Fuck those Bruins. My God, classless assholes. But yes, they infested the Joe, and I'm sure they'll infest the new Little Caesars Arena like a freaking plague.
hey, at least you can sell them those cheap, hot and ready pizzas to them. Maybe it will get them into a coma from a food coma.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yes, and that's not to say all Leafs fans are bad. I did meet a couple decent ones, but they were very, very, very few in the minority. If we can just sidetrack a little bit, and I think we can because it's our show.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the opening game for the Wings a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Wings won that game like 6-1, and it was the first game of the season that year. And Justin Abdicator, one of the players on the Wings, got a hat trick that game. Mm-hmm. I swear to you, we had a couple drunk Leafs fans in the back shouting, "You suck, Wings!" while we were up like 4-1 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I just found that funny.
Although I do have to ask this question: who made the playoffs last year?
Oh, shush.
Trying to be fair here, I have a team called the Buffalo Sabres. They are a complete fire in this point, so...
Yeah, I know they did, but here's the thing. Toronto isn't winning anything. Toronto got lucky and they drafted one of the best players they possibly could, and they went to a rebuild. Mm-hmm. Like, this was going to happen eventually. The Wings did not make the playoffs because they had made the playoffs for 25 straight years, had won 4 cups during that span, and had been the Mount Olympus of hockey. Mm-hmm. I am serious. Best, most dominant team of hockey team in the past 20 years.
And what is your GM doing right now?
Burning it all to the ground. I swear to God. We might as well start reviewing hockey for the rest of the episode because we're probably never going to get back to wrestling with the raid. I'm going to go off on Ken Holland, or we can save that for another time.
Okay, we'll save that for next Friday's episode. We'll leave a little hockey episode in there, a little bit of an infrequel about Ken Holland and his massive screw-ups, which I've been hearing about. Yes. So, was the next segment Enzo getting stuck on a shark cage?
No, the segment after that was Bailey addressing her injury.
Oh, goody! The Canadian crowd reacted to Bailey as I do.
Yeah.
They booed her.
Yes, they did. Because, of course, they did. Because Canada. Mm-hmm. I get the feeling, like, you hear the stereotype that Canadians are all really nice and pleasant people. I get the feeling that they can be like that because they get all of their assholelessness behavior out at sporting events. Mm-hmm. Like, they go to sporting events, act like huge dicks to people, and then that's it. Mm-hmm. That's like the release. And they can go around the rest of life being these perfect saints of people who are like, "Oh, you need to come into my house? Ah, sure. I need to borrow $50,000. Here you go. Oh, your leg's bleeding? Here, I'll drive you to the hospital and let you use my insurance."
Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the thing. I also believe the theory that all ego Ethan Page has absorbed all of the ego and anger and rage of Canada at this point.
That would be a good theory. And, Bailey addresses the injury, says she won't be able to make it to SummerSlam. And, it was disappointing. I really, really wish the crowd had reacted better, but, it is what it is. Bailey did look kind of lost at points during the promo, which, we've said it before. She isn't the best speaker. And
now she has a Bob Orton-esque cast, and if she interferes in the match in SummerSlam, then, things will take an interesting turn.
Yep. So what they decided to do was this week they would have 2 triple threat matches, and the winner of those matches would face each other next week, and the winner of that match would face Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. And after that, we had the first match, which was Sasha Banks versus Alicia Fox versus Emma. Mm-hmm. And, it was a fine match. I had to do some stuff around this time. I had someone come over and I needed to handle some stuff, so I missed most of this, but I did see the ending, and Sasha Banks got the win. Mm-hmm. And she went on to face the winner of the other one. Mm-hmm. And now after this, we got before that, we got at a quick backstage segment with Braun, who pretty much said, "I enjoy hurting Roman Reigns. I like beating him up," which, has to be the perfect segue for a new segment, a little new mini segment I've debated about introducing. And after talking with a friend of the show, I decided I would introduce it. This is called No Done News.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, here's how it'll work. Welcome to No Done News. All the news that is so painfully obvious, but I still feel the need to mention because I want to be slightly patronizing.
Mm-hmm.
Braun Strowman enjoys hurting Roman Reigns. No duh. Fire is incredibly hot. Don't touch it. No duh. Ice is incredibly cold. Don't touch it if you don't touch it for extended period of times. No duh. This has been No Duh News with your host, Sal Cusmano. We will come back to No Duh News later in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Braun Strowman enjoys hurting Roman Reigns. And, well, yeah, he does. We've seen that.
I mean, an ambulance got involved the last time that these two went off, and
Yeah. So, we know you enjoy hurting him, Braun, but it was a fine promo. I mean, it was painfully obvious, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we had the shark cage stuff. And
so basically, here's the situation, folks. This is Fizzy with the weather. Enzo Amore will be suspended above a shark cage at SummerSlam to prevent him from interfering in the Big Show Big Cass match on the show.
Yes.
Whether or not Enzo Amore will be up there the entirety of the show and will wither into nothingness and bones is debatable.
Yes, but let's talk about this for a minute. Enzo Amore heads to the ring and he introduces himself in the Big Show. Enzo goes on and says a little spiel. All the while I'm watching this, I'm just thinking, my God, show. Remember when you got yourself into great shape on the way to Mania?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it have been nice if the WWE rewarded your hard work and dedication to them and dedication to yourself and, getting yourself into shape so you can perform better? Wouldn't it be nice to, maybe not give you a title run, but maybe give you some better feuds than this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that poor man. I feel for him because it's one of those things where it's like, we're always told, you work hard, you do the right things, good things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
He worked hard, he did the right things. He's now stuck being forced to play Enzo's friend.
I mean, eventually, the eventual Big Show heel face turn dynamic will work itself out, and Enzo will be being punched in the face.
Yeah, but but then WWE will think that makes me want to boo Big Show. No, that does not make me want to boo Big Show. That makes me want to cheer this man.
Well, you are going to cheer him anyway. That's fine.
Well, yes, but I don't want to cheer someone WWE wants me to hate. I'll do it because, not to spite WWE, but because, no, I've grown attached to this character and I like him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something WWE doesn't realize is that I don't boo people you want me to cheer out of spite for you. Mm-hmm. I do it because you're terrible at writing them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people have mentioned this before. WWE only knows how to write Byronic heroes. And for those who don't know anything about literature, a Byronic hero is a hero who is very, very flawed. Like, even further than an anti-hero. They're very dark, very gritty. And their sole thing is that, yeah, they'll freely admit, I freaking suck, but I'm better than the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you root for them. They're better than the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Which, is all well and good, but WWE has been failing to make the alternative worse. They're usually as bad as the alternative or maybe even slightly worse. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things, and I feel like WWE got onto this because they had Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was their biggest moneymaker and success story ever, with the possible exception of Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But something they failed to realize was who they had him go up against.
Satan himself.
Yes, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon was pretty much Satan himself during that run.
Mm-hmm. Satan himself, and proud of it.
Yeah, and that's why it worked. Because was Stone Cold Steve Austin a bit of a bastard? Yep. Was he a bit of a dick? Yep. But he was going up against Satan himself, and anyone looks good going up against Satan.
Yes. Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
The ultimate villain in this story in the AE era.
Yeah.
So we had Show and Enzo in the ring, and then Cass came out. insulted Enzo.
Well, no, Cass didn't come out. The Good Brothers did.
Oh, the Good Brothers did.
And they called them nerds. The Good Brothers did. And Enzo had this look on his face, like just totally dejected. And people, and I think it was Total Divas episodes, that Twitter channel. They tweeted a GIF with a caption like, "Is with like Enzo with like a supposed Enzo inner monologue. Is this what it feels like to call people names? I feel like a monster." And I'm just like, if only that was true. I wish it was.
I mean, here's the thing. Enzo was a safety in high school. He's not a nerd. He's a football player.
Yeah, no, well, what he is well, from all accounts of what I've heard, and I don't dispute any of them, he's a piece of shit.
Oh, of course. But, he's from Jersey. That's it's kind of understandable in this particular instance.
Yes. And then Enzo, and he said, "Oh yeah, those two are Dr. Evil and Mini-Me," which, if anyone wants to check my Twitter, which fine, do what you want. I mean, if you really want to, I won't force anyone to, and I don't recommend it. It's boring as all hell. But he said, I said, yes, because Dr. Evil was known for his prominent beard. Yes, Enzo. They are two men with very prominent facial hair. Not full-blown Wyatt beards, but you can see they both have a very nice beard. It's like, if your joke is that they're both bald, yeah, sure. You could have called them Mr. Clean, and it would have made about as much sense. So, then those two got into a match. The Good Brothers got the win after Cass interfered. So it was what it was. And then after this, there was a backstage segment with Cass going back to Angle and saying, "Look, we should make a match, and we should have me versus Big Show with Enzo in the shark cage."
They're getting a lot of mileage out of that shark cage, and they're putting some of the most annoying individuals possible in that thing.
That is what I literally said when they announced this match. I said WWE is really getting their every mileage they can out of that shark cage. So yes, WWE wants that shark cage. And it was what it was. The thing was fine. After that, we had Finn Balor addressing Bray Wyatt. I absolutely skipped this match because, as I've said before, I have no patience anymore for Bray Wyatt.
Where I have plenty of patience for Bray Wyatt at this point. I still like the guy after all. And basically, the situation is Finny McBroke wants to unleash the demon on Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt wants the demon to come because, again, it's a situation where Bray needs to absorb his powers in order to become stronger. So basically, it's that situation. We're going to have that match at SummerSlam, and people are either going to like it or they're going to want to set it on fire. Next segment.
I'm just going to say that match, like the whole concept behind the match where it's like, I want you to bring out the demon so I can absorb its power. I want to bring out the demon. It sounds like a very bad setting for a LARPing troupe. I swear to God. I bet even LARPers look at that and laugh. Like, my God, what are you people doing? But after that, we had Dean Ambrose versus Cesaro with Sheamus. And in the roll-up roundabout for wins, we land on Ambrose pinning Cesaro. And, again, fine TV match. I enjoy Cesaro a lot in matches. I enjoy Ambrose. I really have been enjoying Ambrose a lot more lately because they've downplayed his wackiness. And after this match, we once again had an attempted beatdown. Only this time, Seth came for the save. And Dean stuck out his arm because he now trusts Seth. And this time it was Seth's turn to act like it's tsundere. No, Dean, no. Because apparently we've gone from having one person act to a tsundere to having both act like a tsundere, which in my anime hatred ranks up at the top of the list. Right below two people who like act like they don't like each other. Well, it kind of is a tsundere, only it's this time it's like they were oblivious to the fact they like each other.
Oh yes, we're dealing with the oblivious couple is what you're referring to.
Yes. This one isn't completely oblivious because I get the feeling they do know they like each other. They're both just being stubborn. So it's like one step better. Or maybe worse. I don't even know at this point. But yes, I hate the oblivious anime couples who don't know the other person likes them, and I hate the couples where it's like, no, they're both too stubborn to admit that they like each other. And there's obviously a lot of overlap with both of those, but yes. But, I still like the story. Why, I don't know. maybe it was because of the initial banter, but I'm still enjoying it. The characters have grown on me. I'm actually liking Seth, for the love of God, and my lord, I feel dirty.
Hey, Sal, I think there's flying bacon outside your house.
Yes, there is. I'm going to go get my gun later and shoot it, even though I don't have a gun. So I'm sure I can find a gun somewhere. I'll just go into a Walmart and walk out. It'll be fine.
Or you can just buy a crossbow. Those are better.
Yeah, why not? Anyway, yeah, so that was that. And, then we had Akira Tozawa versus Arya Davari with Titus O'Neil and comms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this. I love the fact that not Arya Davari, the fact that Akira Tozawa and Titus O'Neil, after Akira won the number one contendership match last week, they seem to be on great terms again.
Yeah.
I love that because I love Akira Tozawa and Titus O'Neil as this manager-client stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love it. I think Titus, like I've said before, Titus is perfect in this role. He's a very good, like I've said, he's a very good motivational speaker. He kind of acts as a hype man for Titus, as a good manager and a hype man to hype him up because, he's a motivational speaker. He's a very good speaker too. And this plays to all of Titus's strengths. Titus has always been a good speaker, but he hasn't been the best in-ring worker.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this worked. Titus on comms was playing up. Booker and everyone else was worried, is Tozawa 100% because the shoulder, it's not taped anymore. Mm-hmm. And, they're worried. Like Titus is saying, oh, yeah, no, he's good. He's at 100%. But, you come off an injury, people are still a bit worried. Mm-hmm. And from everything we can gather, it looked like it was at 100%. Tozawa got the win.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was what it was. And I'm looking forward to Tozawa Neville. I've really enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
After this was the second triple threat match. Mickey James versus Dana Brooke versus Nia Jax. Or as I like to call it, Nia Jax versus the two pieces of meat. Of fresh meat. Excuse me.
Yep.
Yeah. Because, that's really all it was. It was Nia Jax dominating two people for an extended period of time and then getting the win.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep.
After that, we had a Gold Dust thing saying he wants to become a manager of talent in WWE. I don't know if he's going to form another lower card stable thing to feud with Titus's Titus Worldwide brand. That would actually be potentially interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But, it will be what it'll be. And then we had the big main event. The final thing on the show, the last man standing match they had been hyping all show. Roman Reigns against Braun Strowman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Love this match.
Yep.
Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman always do good work. They went back and forth. Roman took a chair to the face. Braun was behind one of the at one point was behind like on the side of the ring and the timekeeper area. He took one of those like office chairs and threw it in Roman's face, and he threw it fast. Like the acceleration it got, I was surprised, and that was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then Roman at one point had Braun up, and he ran down the ramp, jumped at pretty much the end of the ramp, and speared Braun.
Mm-hmm.
That would have had Braun down. And then Joe came out, hit the coquina clutch on Roman, and got Roman down. Mm-hmm. And then Braun got up at 7, and he won the match. So, very, very good match. If you can find the full match somewhere, find it and watch it. I'd highly recommend it. Really good last man standing match. Very brutal. Played to both the competitors' strengths. And yeah, that was this week's episode of Raw. It had a lot of good stuff on it. I really enjoyed this week's episode of Raw, and I feel like Raw as a whole has been getting a lot better lately. Mm-hmm. These past few weeks have been very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's talk briefly about SmackDown here because I wanted to make the show just about an hour.
Yeah. Well, we'll go make this really quick. John Cena addressed his loss from last week. Called Corbin skinny fat just to pop CJ, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's all good. And, and the No Dog news, the Usos are still good.
Yep. Further No Dog news, as I promised earlier. The Usos are still good, and I am still looking forward to the Usos versus the New Day. Mm-hmm. They won a quick match over Ty Dillinger and Sami Zayn because even in Canada, you cannot win in your home country or town. Mm-hmm. which it is what it is.
Yep.
Then we had Tyler Breeze trying to figuring out who kidnapped Fandango, and then it was Fashion Peaks, which was absolutely hilarious. And it turned out the culprit was Arn Anderson.
Yep.
I love this so much. Go watch it on YouTube. It's like 50 seconds or so. It's hilarious. Charlotte Flair versus Lana. Lana once again lost. This joke is never ending. I'm kind of like, I'm not sick of seeing Lana being made a fool of. It's just, I actually kind of am sick of seeing Lana made a fool of. Not that she doesn't deserve it, just that I don't even want her to get screen time at this point. I just want her to be gone.
Okay.
Then Shane McMahon gives the rules of engagement to AJKO, which credit to WWE. They found a way to plug the network into a segment while not making it seem like egregious advertising. Or at least not as bad as it could have been, because they played up that Shane in the past as a ref has shown bias. They showed the Austin versus Mankind match from, can't remember what show it was, but it was in 98. And, you know, it was what it was. And I mean, I feel like it was pretty good. Shane accidentally got hit by AJ's Pele when AJ was going for KO. So they're furthering that tension there.
Yep.
Then we had Carmella against Naomi. And I'm going to make this a little bit longer right here. I know you want to keep it short, but I'll keep it as short as possible. But Carmella was a freaking idiot.
She didn't cash in on the case, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. She pinned Naomi first. Ellsworth got the win, distracted Naomi, pushed her down a little bit. And then Carmella hit her boot, got the win. Cool. Carmella has missed Money in the Bank. Naomi is the champion. Carmella had just pinned the champion. All she needed to do, if she didn't think she had her done enough, just pick her up again and hit her again and then cash in and pin her. Why did you not do this?
Classic paranoia.
It was stupid. Like, no one at any point had any indication of running out. It made no sense whatsoever. I don't think anyone would have cared either. Ugh. We had a Shinsuke Nakamura sit-down interview in which I realized that Shinsuke Nakamura, a non-native speaker of English, someone who was not born speaking English, speaks English and is a far better speaker of English than Baron Corbin. That is damning on Baron Corbin's part. You should be better than someone who did not grow up with the language. You would think, at least. That is a very good credit to Shinsuke, though. I give that man all the props in the world. Then we had that non-title grudge match, which, you know, that's just a stupid name. Side note, I was talking with Dance Owens Dance during the show, and we both came up with ideas of like what an actual grudge match could be instead of just a stupid little title for this match. My idea was that instead of winning by a 3 count, you need to win by a 5 count, bring back the old Biggie Langston rule. His idea was that you need to have them down for 10 seconds, but you have to walk away without looking behind you to win the match.
Okay.
So, like, you have to be facing away and walking away before they hit 10. I kind of like both of those ideas, at least for the funniness of it. But, you know, yes. And Randy Orton finally got his win back because, again, 50-50 booking.
Yep.
And then Rusev kicked Randy in the face and left.
Yep.
And that was Smackdown in about, what, 5-10 minutes?
Yep.
Smackdown was fine. I mean, the tag division stuff is keeping me going through it. I'm hoping the people I like AJ and Shinsuke, win. You know, John dropping absolute bombs on Baron and eviscerating him was fun. Excuse me. But yeah.
Yep.
It was what it was. I mean, I feel like SmackDown's been better than where it was when it was Jinder Orton and stuff. I'll say that.
Yep.
Still not very good.
Yep. So that was Raw. That was SmackDown. That was the G1. That's about it for today, I guess.
Yeah. We will be back to our normal schedule next week. Friday, August 18th at 1 p.m.
Yep, we'll be back at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We thank you folks for tuning in during this, scheduling thing. This has been William Fitzpatrick. You can follow me on Twitter at Fitzpatrick14. You can follow him at Sal_Cusmano.
Actually, it's Cusmano_Sal.
Yep. And we thank you for once again tuning in on this broadcast. Whatever happens, happens, and it's time to move forward, folks. And we'll see you next time for the next edition of Wacky World of Wrestling. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.
See you guys.